Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Victor Michael Vincent Jr. I am the reentry expert. Ladies and gentlemen, I started out the blog today. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. And what I thought I would do is give you some time, because who wants to look at this mug every day? But I had something on my heart. And the one thing I have on my heart is tomorrow I'll be doing interviews for my full-time job as a supervisor with the city. And I just kind of want to talk on interviews. I mean, first impressions mean everything. And I always tell young ladies and men that when I do speeches or when I meet a new client, I try to boost them up, get them hyped up. You have to go in that job interview and nail it the first time. And one of the most important things about an interview is trying to reach out to the people you're interviewing with before you get to the interview. It's good to have a conversation. I love it when somebody reaches out to me and said, hey, I was scheduled to come in for an interview with you next week, and I would just like to ask you some questions. A lot of times when you ask potential jobs that question, a lot of times people get the opportunity to tell you exactly what they want. And it's funny because I've sat on interviews 1,000 times, and each time I sit on the interview, I always ask the team that I'm sitting on the interview with, what are you looking for? Or I ask the direct supervisor who's actually doing the hiring, like, what are you looking for? Because each time is different. Sometimes when you go in an interview, that employer wants somebody with some knowledge who could jump right in and run right at top speed as soon as he comes aboard. And sometimes an interviewer just wants somebody who's willing to come in, listen, learn, and do whatever that person wants, that employee wants them to do. So it's up to you who's reaching out to get that new job to find out what that particular department or what that particular person in management wants working for them. I've been on interviews and I've watched people fall asleep. I was on an interview one time, and one of the questions that was posed was, well, what are you going to do if you don't get this job? And the reason why that question was asked was that the supervisor wanted some input because he had a future job opening he know was coming down the line. And the person said, well, I was a hustler, so I'm going to have to get out here and do what I have to do. We were like, wow, really? Did you really just say that on the interview? And I tried to speak up over the man so that nobody would hear exactly what he said, because I came right back with a counter question. And my supervisor at that time caught it and was like, did you hear what he said? And I was like, And I was like, yeah, I heard him. So remember a couple of things. Find out what that job is looking for. Sometimes people want direct answers to questions. Sometimes people want a story with some of your questions. Sometimes you can go in and it can be 10 questions and they only get past the first 2 questions because sometimes you give too much information. So once again, I am Victor Michael Vincent Jr., the reentry expert. And when you're looking for a job, please do your homework. Please do your research. I'll never forget the time, one time I interviewed for a job for solid waste. I didn't get the job, and I went back and asked the supervisor after the interviews were over with, after the candidate was picked. I was like, can I just ask you a question? What exactly were you looking for? And he kind of looked at me and said, man, I'm kind of surprised you didn't come talk to me before that interview. And I was like, what? He was like, yo, I heard a lot about you. He said, I kind of know who you are, but I really expected you to come talk to me before you sat down on that interview. I always go back and ask employers after the interview, what were they looking for, what I could have done better. Even when I get the job, I still go back and ask, what could I have done better? What am I lacking? What did you expect, and what did you want to hear from me? And it's always a good idea to practice with a family member, a friend. You can always Google questions asked on a job interview just to prep yourself for when you go in to these interviews. Once again, I am Victor Michael Vincent Jr., and I am the reentry expert. Y'all have a good day. Stay blessed. Thank you.